Everybody, I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome you to the Coeur d'Alene School District special meeting for June 20th, 2022. Would the gentlemen please remove their hats and everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Good evening. Here comes Miss Smith. And I'll turn it over to you. Or you want me to get going? Go ahead. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and introduce our participants. My name's Casey Morrisroe, and I'm the vice chair. And over at my far right is Marianne Southwick, our clerk of the board. Joining us just now is our chair, Rebecca Smith. To my left, Lesli Bjerke, Heather Tenbrink and Allie Anderton, our board members. And on Zoom with us tonight is Superintendent Sean Hawker.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, Sean.
Hi, Dr. Hawker.
Public comment on district-related items is scheduled near the start of this meeting. Please sign in on the sheet provided at the entrance door. Because of the diversity of issues, members of the board will not respond to public comment made during tonight's meeting. Instead, issues may be recorded and referred to the proper staff person for follow-up. Comments may also be submitted to the board via email at trustees@cdaschools.org.
Terrific. Do we have any public comment? Sweet. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And thank you for getting things going. All right. We will move right then into public comment. And Trustee Morrisroe. Which part did you already do? Did you do this part?
I didn't do any of it.
All right. We're going to move into public comment, and we do have a few folks signed up this evening. And I want to remind the public that while this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees that takes place in public, it is not a meeting with the public. It is a meeting of the board to conduct district business. The board does allow some limited public comment on district-related items. Those wishing to address the board during this public comment period are limited to comment not to exceed 3 minutes. At the designated time, you will be called to the podium. Please state your name and your city of residence. If you have additional comments that you would like to present to the board, you may provide those in writing to the clerk of the board, who will ensure that the board members receive this additional commentary. If you have handouts, you may give them to the clerk, who will give them to each of us. Please keep in mind that board members will not respond to public comment. If I determine that an individual statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, or repetitive, I may terminate the speaker's privilege to address the board. Thank you. So this afternoon we have Thrace Kelsick, please. And if you want to come over to the podium, and there should be there's a button there to turn it on, and it'd be great. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, trustees, everyone, good afternoon. I'm here, my name is Thrace, and I'm a resident of Coeur d'Alene. My daughter is a student at Ramsey Elementary. She just finished 3rd grade. I wanted to speak tonight in support of the school plant facilities levy. I'll be the first to admit I don't have a really robust understanding of the tax system and how it relates to the funding of our local schools. But I do have an understanding of that this district as a whole is, what as I see it, drastically underfunded at this point in time. So I've had some communication with our safety and security coordinator, Dean Keck, and after watching last week's meeting, I was honestly quite shocked and disturbed to realize just how underfunded not just maintenance but security in general is, and that there was even a question about putting the most recent SPFL on the ballot. It also reinforced my concerns about the bodily safety of our kids and teachers, as I don't see anything more pressing or important than that. And it should, honestly, in my opinion, shouldn't be a question of dollars, and that we should do everything we can to fully fund as many safety and security measures as we can as soon as possible. I did note many of Seth's proposed safety and security implementations from last week, such as raising fence heights, adding security cameras, window film. And I see all those things as great improvements, but I also see it as kind of a bare minimum of what could be done at this time. What I would personally like to see is a expansion of the SRO program, something that permits at least one officer at every school, all day, every school day, as opposed to what we have now. I am not completely clear on what barriers exist for this. I did speak to Seth earlier about it a little bit, but I would be interested to get more information and feedback on that. And just in closing, I'd like to mention tomorrow I'm going to the Coeur d'Alene Virtual Academy open house with my daughter, not because I want to and not because she wants to, but just because I'm faced with the reality, however high the odds may be at this point, that when I drop my kid off at school, I may never see them again. And that's highly disturbing to me. So in closing, I would just strongly urge you to approve the $9 million SPFL for the ballot in August. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ed DePriest?
Push the red button, or is it probably still on?
Is the red light on? I believe it's still on.
Yeah, looks like it's still on. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us to speak this afternoon. You kind of caught me off guard. Wasn't really planning on it, but when I signed the sheet, it said, oh, so I may as well. I thought it was just an attendance sheet. I'm really right now at this point kind of neutral about the levy. That's what I'm primarily here to talk about. As I have a clear understanding of the needs, and the school district, along with everybody in the Kootenai County and the city, has extensive needs that are going to be on the ballot. I think there are going to be multiple jurisdictions asking for override levies as we move into the election season. And I think there needs to be a real consideration of not only with inflation that's happening and gas prices and everything else, and we still really won't know until we get our tax bill what the levy rate's going to be. You have a lot of panic out there by people, I think, who really don't understand how the tax system works, but with people's property evaluations going up 60, 70, 80% or whatever it is, you have a lot of people scared. And if this is going to be on an August ballot, then I know I won't be voting for anything until I know exactly what the dollar figures are going to end up being. And if I believe it was option 2 was $8 million over 10 years, to make simple math, I believe that was $50 per 100,000. So you take an average home of what, 600,000, and that's $300 a year in addition. And like I said, I'm pretty certain there are going to be a few other jurisdictions, entities asking for overrides too. And a lot of people are tapped out. There are a lot of people who are struggling just to make it. And if you have 300 here, 200 here, 100 here, next thing you know, you have who knows how much, $500, $600 in addition to their normal tax bills. I think you're going to be putting a lot of people in a very difficult financial situation because, like I said, we don't even know what our the tax bills are going to be, and a lot of people on fixed incomes and things like that. So again, I know that the needs are there, along with, and I've had somewhat of discussion. My understanding is there's probably in a short period of time, based on the growth that we're experiencing, going to be a need for a new high school, middle school, elementary school, not too far down the road. And what are the bonds for those going to be? So you start tacking all of these things on, and we're in a significant financial strait in many, many ways. So I think the decision here needs to be very carefully evaluated.
And that's 3 minutes.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you. Troy McCollum?
am Troy McCollum here in Coeur d'Alene. With budgets and funding currently of major focus for the school district, I'd like to share a few thoughts. In the next 12 months, you'll be asking for funds through a plant levy and an M&O levy. And there likely will be also a request for a bond to accommodate construction in new schools in the following year or so. With the rapid changes of our economic situation, I strongly suggest a tightening of the belt, as it were, especially where it applies to expenditures. Expenditures obviously refer to dollars spent. The resources of the district does have a dollar amount in place. However hard that may be, I suggest that trimming costs for this institution may require cutting some programs, curriculum, and positions. In other words, give staff the ability to do their work without additional efforts other than the core expectations, namely giving the students proper education. Please do not mistake well-intentioned additions such as social emotional learning, or SEL as it's known, for a proper response to the issues of the day. Doing so will only bring around numerous unintended consequences with a high cost in productivity and overall health for the district and the community it serves. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bill Green?
This is on. Yep, it's on. So I want to start out with a gratitude compliment. I appreciate the hard work that you guys put in as board members. I know you get paid a whole lot. In fact, I think you do so well, they should probably triple what you get. But I know it takes a lot of hours, and I appreciate that and the gift that you give to the kids and the teachers to try to do the best you can to figure out what works. And I have a few comments. I noticed in the paper there's a new position of deputy superintendent, and that it said that there was no budget increase because of some consolidation of other positions. I guess that means that there's no extra money that's going to be spent, if I understand that right, which is good. If no budget increase means no cost increase, then that sounds like a great plan. And then I'm thinking about the upcoming ballot that may be happening for more money for the maintenance levy. I'm thinking if you could show some effort of cutting a cost somewhere in the area of administration and transferring those savings to the maintenance or to teachers, that would be a great indication to voters who might be really interested in looking more closely at the levy if you are showing that you are, like everybody else, having to cut somewhere because of inflation and all the problem with economics that's going on. That would be inspiring to some voters to see that the district wants to try to recognize that universal problem and take part in it by cutting somewhere, something if they could. And I've always thought there should be a way to get more money directly to the teachers. This might be a little bit off the construction project, but I've always thought it odd that teachers are probably one of the most important functions in our society because of what they do for the younger generation and the kids. And I've seen that so upfront that the teachers here are amazing. And yet I think that they don't get as much money as they ought to be getting. And if there's some way that you can find a way to get more money directly to the teachers, I know even that the state gave them a raise, but that didn't really give them a raise because the district was already paying them more than what the state was giving them. There ought to be some way, somehow, to get more money directly to the teachers because they're the ones that are really doing all the hard work. And I think if you put this issue on the November ballot rather than the August ballot, there'd be greater turnout, more participation, more time for people to think about it, and for you to make a better case, especially since the property taxes will be out by then.
And Mr. Green, that's 3 minutes
Is that
if you
3
want to
minutes?
wrap up. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I was going to say at the end was, if there would be some reach out to the teachers, I'm sure a lot of teachers would be interested in participating, having a forum where they could share their ideas, give more input. Not that they can't always come to the board meeting, but if the board would actually say, we want to hear from you guys, we want to know your ideas, curriculum, textbooks, there's all kinds of areas where teachers would have an input, I think. I remember my mom was a teacher for a long time, and she always talked about the textbook committee. That was a long time ago. So I'm sure there are all kinds of things that go into choosing curriculum, choosing textbooks. I'm just thinking that there'd be some way to really actively invite the teachers to be more involved and give you guys their ideas. Go sit and go visit them, talk with them, something, you know. I just really think it would be really great to see a lot more connection between the board and the actual teachers.
Thank
I'm way
you.
over time, sorry.
Thanks.
But thanks.
Thank you. And Erica Schneidelbeck.
Hello, and thank you for having us tonight. I'm a mom of 3 in the district, and I speak for my family and many others when I say we are scared to send our children back to school and are having a hard time this summer relaxing, knowing that what they're going to face this new year. Now, obviously, school safety is a large umbrella. I've worked at and helped set up banks and understand a little bit about security. I've learned in my experience you can either feel like a sitting duck or get the right equipment and feel safe and equipped. And that's how I want our school and teachers and front-facing staff to feel, and our kids to be safe so they can learn. While it seems as though maybe our middle schools have a 2-door entry, I haven't been in all the schools. My child attends Ramsey as well. Many of our elementary schools do not. And at the moment, obviously, elementary schools are also being targeted in a big way, not that they're not all very important. I also learned a lot from working at a company that developed security systems. However, most of them were home security. But I came up with a few quick ideas from that. Obviously, I don't want to take a ton of time on that. But deterring, while it sounds easy, is our best bet, because obviously once they get in, it's over. Metal detectors there are metal detectors and things that look like pieces of the wall. They're incredibly useful tools, and their sensitivity levels can be changed. So they're not going off for things like keys and etc. There are also things like gun detection cameras available now that you can even use your current cameras with, and they can reroute. The Navy SEALs and other special ops military personnel put them together after the Parkland school shooting that killed about 17 students in 2018 from a company called Zero Eyes. Security signs also help, surprisingly, that prove equipment is on the premises. We found this to be true in the banking and the security industry, oddly enough. Police car presence helps. As a side note, our SRO is amazing. I have drop and pick up my child and walk by the school, drive by the school, volunteer, and I've only seen him twice. I know he is spread really thin. So if we could work on that, that would be amazing. And if not, maybe we can park some cars around or something. And of course, having effective procedures that the staff are frequently trained on is crucial, which everybody is aware of. I'm willing to do whatever it takes via support of the levy, or I'm willing to campaign for private funds to get what we need. And I'm talking about for this coming year, as I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of the bigger things we can do construction-wise are going to take a while. I feel like the schools are in a state of emergency this year, and waiting a year
And
while
that's
shootings.
3 minutes. Go ahead and wrap up.
All right. I understand that the pandemic has exhausted our system, but I would like you guys to know that I, and obviously other parents, are willing to help. So please don't, be afraid to ask for parent help this year, because I think you can get a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming this evening to share your comments and your thoughts. Really appreciate you all coming out, for sure. Great. Next on our agenda is a consent agenda items for the purchase of books for Coeur d'Alene Reads for a summer intervention program. And I would just point out that these funds are coming from our ESSER dollars that are designated for use for summer reading programs. So is there a motion to approve our consent agenda items?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Kids are in our summer reading program. Oops, sorry. How many kids are in our summer reading program? Do we know?
I think it said in there like 160, something like
It
that.
probably did.
So
I
it says
forgot.
I read it in there.
160 in the formal 6-week program, but then they also have an informal program where they drive buses around. They did it last summer as well.
That's right.
And
Okay. It's coming
that's
back.
All right,
not a sign-up thing, I think.
Okay,
So,
thank
Perfect.
you. Thanks.
great. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that consent agenda passes. We're going to look now here at our, we got a few action items this evening then. And so our first up is our 2022-2023 budget approval. Any discussion on this first? Hearing none, is there a motion? Or do you have questions?
I don't think I did, but I just wanted to check.
Okay,
I think I already asked her. the
okay,
I got my questions answered already.
all right. Great.
There is a set motion.
There is a set motion here. And do you have it, or?
I don't, I forgot my computer today.
Hold on, I'll get it right up here. Does someone have their motion?
Yeah,
These have
it
a
says, I motion to approve the 2022-2023 budget as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Budget passes. Thank you. Let's move on then to our school plants facilities levy, our SPFL. And let's start with some discussion on that then. And yeah. Or is there a presentation then?
Part two, just a couple
Perfect.
slides. Okay.
That'd be great. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, so we did want to have, there's some clarifying questions and just wanted to present more information. It's a complex tax system, so whatever we can do to continue to present. So where we left off last time, the district recommended an $8 million school plant facilities levy for a 10-year term to fund safety and security projects as well as ongoing deferred maintenance. So I wanted to update this chart. Last time we presented what 2023 would look like without a plant facility. This chart represents what it would look like with $8 million SPFL. It represents it's $1.30 per thousand. So still less than the current $1.56 per thousand that we have this school year. Okay, and there was a question about the funding timeline when we would receive revenue, so wanted to clarify that. On August 30th, we'll have the election. In September, the levy certified with the county. And then if it was approved in January 2023, we would receive 56 to 60% of the revenue. In July of 2023, we would receive the balance, and that would repeat for 10 years. So in January, we would get about 50 to 60%, and then July, the remaining. So that's how it works for those 10 years. Also to note about the election, because the election is before we get the new assessed value for 2022. Unfortunately, on the ballot, it's the 2021 assessed value. So this current year assessed value, from last presentation, we're looking at a preliminary 60% growth. So it won't show that huge growth in assessed value at this time with the ballot.
Shannon, so that was one of my questions. The ballot language, so when it says under current conditions, it means your assessment, not the one you got in the mail last week, your previous.
Correct. It's your assessed value as of January 1st, 2021.
So then when it's actually levied, though, it would be based on the new
January 1st,
assessment.
2022, the new assessed
Okay,
value.
but
yes.
is it fair to say that if you're trying to estimate what your total cost would be, you're going to be more accurate if you take the whatever amount of money it says in there and use your previous assessment to multiply it out? Do you see? So like, say my previous assessment was $300,000 and my new one is $500,000. If the 50 whatever that's in here, will I be closer to what I'd actually pay if I multiplied by the 300?
Unfortunately not, because
Okay.
the new assessed value does lower the levy rate. And I'll show you on these next two slides.
But I'd be close. I mean, taking the $50 and multiplying it by my new 500 isn't accurate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so complex to,
Okay.
you know. But I'll show you
Okay.
two tables that hopefully will explain it a little better.
I think the one thing, so the dollar amount that's in there is based on the current levy rate, which won't be the actual levy rate next year, correct? That's
Correct.
where it gets tricky.
Yes.
So if you took that levy rate of whatever it is and multiplied it by your new assessment, you're going to be estimating way high because it's not showing the value that the levy rate is going to drop.
It's not showing the 60% growth overall. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good questions,
As the
though.
denominator. Right,
As the
okay.
denominator. Yeah, so so these tables hopefully will be able to explain it a little better. Here's the 2021 taxable assessed value, so our current year, what we currently have, and you see the levy amount options, either 1 million from 10 million, and how it impacts the dollars per thousand. So highlighted, we have that 8 million. The current assessed value is 15.9 million. So you see in the ballot language, it's going to be $50.03 per 100,000. So that's what currently, if we had a levy this current year, what it would look like, and that what will look like on the ballot, because we don't have the new values. However, if we do apply the preliminary 60% growth, this is what it will look like for the actual growth. So we have 8 million. We timesed the amount on the last sheet by 60% growth. So the new assessed value, AKA the denominator, is 25.6 million. And then you see, because the denominator increased so much, the tax rate or the levy rate, the per 1,000, per 100,000 is smaller compared to what we currently have. And unfortunately, we cannot put that on the ballot because those numbers aren't in yet. Okay, and then just some quick examples to maybe make it a little easier to understand. We have a medium home value from Realtor.com, zip code 83814. So tax year 2021, so our current school year, 2021-22, if they had a home value of $674,500 minus the homeowner's exemption, their taxable value is $549.5, and then we multiply it by our current levy rate, so it's $1.56 per thousand. So you're looking at a tax bill of $857.22. Now the next column represents next year's projected levy rate without an SPFL. So a $20 million supplemental, keeping the tort, keeping the bond.
So this levy rate encompasses the other levies we already have, or is this just
It encompasses all our combined
Okay,
levies.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that that's what I
Yeah, so it's $1.56 per thousand right now.
Okay.
So projecting next year, if we just have our current levies and not the SPFL, because our assessed value grows so much, it's decreasing the levy rate by a lot too. It's 98 cents per thousand instead. So you can see their assessed value, based off of what is Realtor.com, the assessed value went up. It's January 1st, 2022, so it went up from 674 to 815. But because the levy rate dropped so low, when you actually do the calculation, your property tax will be lower. So that's an example without the SPFL. Third column is the example for next year if we did add in that $8 million SPFL. So it's keeping the same home value as the second column. Everything's the same, but the new levy rate goes from 98 cents per thousand to $1.30 per thousand. And that would give us projected property taxes of $895.09. So if we compare that with 2021, it's a $37.80 difference, 87 cents difference. So that's, from pulling Realtor.com. So you can really pull a lot of examples from Zillow, your own account, to try and calculate that. Just looking at another medium home value in 83815, just slightly smaller home values, and you can see just how it might, if you have, last slide, it was a 21% assessed value increase. This particular, the medium home value was a 33% increase. So as your assessed value increases, your property taxes, let's take a look. You had $300 in a taxable value. You multiply it by our current rate, you're paying $468 in property taxes this year. Let's go to the third column. If we added in that SPFL, and for next year, your assessed value increased by 33%. So now your new taxable value goes to $440K instead of $300. So you see the tax rate's lower, but you will be paying slightly more in property tax, about $103 more. So, and if, of course, next slide, this is showing, okay, what your current tax year is of 2021, your home value is $425. Let's say the assessed value for next year grows by 20%, or 40%, or 60%. Those are the differences in property taxes. So obviously 60% growth in your assessed value is pretty significant. So your property tax is $620 instead of $468. Still lower tax rates, but that's just the impact of if your home does increase by that much more. Now the 60% growth rate for the assessed value, that includes all property, not just, home property. It's, big commercial real estate and stuff like that. So you have to take into account what your individual assessed value is and see that impact for yourself. But you just need to take a look at that, use that $1.30 per thousand, and you can calculate kind of your estimated tax bill for next year. So I hope that clarified a little bit of the calculations and gives you a better understanding as we go through our complex tax system. So, thanks.
Thank you, Shannon. Any additional questions? Or
I have a question. Just something I think, I don't know, Mr. Green or somebody brought it up. Let me rephrase. Have we considered putting this on the November instead of August? And if not, why?
Yeah, we haven't considered that yet.
Okay.
We just considered August, but yeah, the board can, when we have discussion, have that discussion as well. So.
Do you know how that would work with timing? Would we still start receiving revenue in January?
I don't believe so. I would have to confirm with Eric Herringer what the new timing would be, but I can get that. I can get all of our 4 options, the 4 election options, and share those timelines with you.
That would be great.
I think the one thing I figured out, and after talking with Shannon and some comments that were in the paper about the increase in assessed values and kind of explaining a levy rate system, it kind of clicked for me. So even though our budget is due at the end of June, some taxing entities, I guess, aren't due until September, or they don't have to get their information to the county until September. So the county sets levy rates in September or early October. So since the election would take place in August, that's how the funds would become available in January. Any time after that, it would be the following January. And for me, that's I'm going to just make my comments and maybe make them brief because I know Allie's got an airplane to catch. But that was kind of a turning point for me, I think, on this. I think it is an aggressive timeline. I think it's a tough timeline. There's a lot of concern around assessed values, and Mr. DePriest talked about that, and several people have. And I think that's going to be tricky running this. But I think for me, my duty as a trustee is to share what the need is, and I think we well know what the needs are, and it's up to the taxpayers whether they agree it's worthy or not. And so I'm going to be interested in moving forward because it allows us to start addressing some of these things, and some we know are urgent this year. And if we wait any further, it's a whole nother year, and the needs are just going to add up. So I'm optimistic but concerned, I think, with the time frame and just the uncertainty around the tax levy rate for some folks, but willing to move forward and see what the voters have to say.
Shannon, I'm curious to know, in the spirit of, like we've been hearing across the nation, people are having to make budget cuts. I'm interested in knowing more about possibly doing a necessary FTE analysis to see if there's anything that we can do there as well. Obviously the need is there for the levy, but this is a really big ask for our community. And I think that we need to show them that we're doing the best that we can to cut any fat from the budget or anything unnecessary in the process.
Absolutely, and that's definitely a goal of the budget subcommittee and tightening position control and assessing those needs.
Okay.
Not really a question or a comment, kind of an echo of what Allie said. There is no doubt we need this. Our buildings, a lot of them are in serious trouble, but we realize this is a big ask. It's tough times out there, and it ultimately has to be your decision. You have to figure it out. I know it's hard, but our buildings, I mean, we really do need it. There's no doubt that there's a need, so just wanted to share that.
I agree with Casey. I think this is aggressive timeline, but the fact that we could get the money, and if we know the money's coming in January, potentially do some of these security upgrades we want to do before January, is a big deal to me. And also our buildings, it's easier to maintain our buildings than to do major repairs to our buildings. I actually, Amoresco, it was like in 2 or 3 years, said it, because we just kept building this deferred maintenance, they said the annual funding requirement increased $2 million. I think the sooner we address it, the better off we'll all be, and the less money we'll end up spending overall. I'm willing to discuss a little less than 8 million. I don't know, are we? I was leaning more to 6, but just from the graphs that Amoresco provided for us. But just to throw it out there to muddy the waters.
I've got another question too. Is it possible to look at a 5-year instead of 10-year levy to give us time to maybe make more adjustments in other areas to accommodate?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. There's no requirement that has to be 10. That's just the max.
Okay.
Shannon, do you or Jeff want to speak maybe to amounts at all, or Dr. Hawker? Any other thoughts on that?
The one thing that struck me with the comment of looking at the Amoresco drafts is I would just say, remember that it recommended $6 million, but that also assumed there was $1.5 million that we currently fund. And there was $1 million of bond funding that was allocated to that and $500,000 on an annual basis. So, when it was suggesting $6 million, it's really $7.5 million that it is requesting for funding from the Amoresco data for clarification. And then if we are factoring safety and security on top of that, I think that's where some of the additional ask is coming from, to make sure we have enough to do the deferred maintenance and safety and security on top of that as well.
I think just for myself, just regarding the whole ask, I think what really came into clarity for me was just the safety pieces that was shared last week. They seemed reasonable, they seemed needed, and waiting on those longer just didn't. That's our primary role, is to provide for the safety of our students in lots of ways. So that was really clear. And I really appreciate all the comments tonight. I hear, waiting and all the other pieces of the community, but my job as a trustee is to put the schools first. And so I really feel like putting that out there, the community gets to decide. And if the community says no, not right now, or figure it out, the community can do that. And I really value that. And I think the aggressive timeline, like we've heard, we've done short timelines before on these, and so I think we can get the word out. We have a big job, though, to educate and to really put that forth. So, Shannon, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I would just like to add on the 10-year recommendation, just when Seth was talking about the rotation of the security projects, really with 10 years, we can factor in 2 rotations of the projects, just because, cameras go out to date. So that's really where the recommendation lies, and as well.
I think for me, just on that kind of timing, as someone who's been on the board now 7 years, and I think through 3 M&O levies now, soon to be 4, one of the concerns people hear is sometimes they don't realize they're replacement levies, so one's expiring and new one's coming. And it feels like we're always out, with our hand out asking for more money. It's because it is. We are out every 2 years asking to replace that levy. And so I think the community would feel better about a 10-year in some regards, because you're not coming every 5 years.
Hearing your suggestion about different amounts, is there any other feelings from the board regarding what amount to ask our community for, or opinions on that?
Well, I guess I didn't realize this was an addition to the assumed 1.5, which is actually only 0.5. So I think one of the things we'll need to educate our community on is as compared to some other states, we have very, very little funding coming for building maintenance from the state of Idaho. So I'm okay with 8, I think, given that.
All right. Jeff, did you have a comment? No. I was just waiting in case. All right. Hearing that, getting the sense that we want to move forward, is there a motion then? There is a resolution, or just a motion that goes along with. The motion would be to move that the board seek voter approval for a school plant facilities reserve fund levy in the amount of whatever amount for a term of how many years. It's on the page there, so someone else would need to make that motion.
Okay, well, I will move that the board seek voter approval for a school plant facilities reserve fund levy in the amount of $8 million for a term of 10 years.
Is there a second?
I'd second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye, sorry.
That was an aye for Mr. Trustee Morrisroe. Any opposed? No. Hearing none, then we will move ahead with the school plant facilities levy. Thank you, and thank you to the community for considering that come August. All right. Moving on, then, we've got a classified salary proposal. Is there, Eric, are you presenting, or is anyone presenting on that, or is that just for us to?
Yeah, just the information is there, just what the cost of what we are recommending is full steps for classified and a 7% increase. And then the cost associated that is within the cover page. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. So just so the community knows, this is for a wage increase to the classified salary schedule. So any comments, questions?
Non-teachers.
Non-teachers. This is our bus drivers, our maintenance staff, our paras, everyone that makes the lunch.
And we really
people.
have not been competitive
Duties.
with other
Yeah.
employers in our town
Yeah.
in these areas.
And
So for that reason, I will motion to approve the classified salary proposal as presented.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope, hearing none, then our classified staff will move up in that wage increase. Thank you. All right, and last, we have our superintendent's contract extension, and this is just the contract extension. And so we presented this. This would be a contract extension, and his any sort of salary increase or additional addendums would come at a later time. This is just a 1-year extension of his contract. So, and we're, Dr. Hucker, you're on the phone still, right?
I am here.
So we're going to vote on that. Is there a motion to approve that extension? There is a.
I've got it pulled up, but.
It's the motion to extend the superintendent contract for Dr. Sean Hucker by 1 year, ending June 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? No, hearing none. Dr. Hucker, we'd like you to be here for the next year, please. So we're thankful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Those are the main items. We are going to move into executive session per Idaho Code 74-206, subsection J, to consider labor contract matters authorized under section 74-206A, 1A, and B under Idaho Code. And so we'll take a short recess just to kind of clear the room, and then we'll move into executive session. Thank you all for coming, and continue to be involved. Thank you.